Every feature that you pull from that point cloud is what? It's an existing condition. Talking about curb, talking about gutter, talking about pavement striping, talking about whatever you'd like to have pulled linear in that drawing, whether it be a terrestrial scanner, whether it be a scanner that's on top of a car, whether you've got it on your back, whether you're holding it in your hand. Recap can bring in all of those formats. Well, I appreciate everybody sticking here with me. I had some live presentation I was going to show you today, basically taking you through our reality capture workflow of taking point cloud data into the cloud, into our construction cloud, and then doing what's called linear feature extraction, and then bringing that information into Civil 3D, which is our design product from Autodesk, and taking that data there up to ArcGIS Online and making it available to everybody in your group or in your company or whoever you'd like to make it available to. Because point clouds they're like the greatest existing conditions data ever, right? Because if you scan something, you're getting everything. I mean, most generally. I always kind of say, I worked in the private sector for a long time doing civil engineering, and the hardest thing in the world was having surveyors have the surveyors go back out and pick something else up. Well, a lot of times you don't have that problem if you have it scanned, because you can always bring that scan up and you can pull something from that scan. So it's a great way to do it. But my name is John Sayre. I am a technical marketing manager for Autodesk. I do a lot of webinars for our products in the AEC collection, especially with reality capture and with our partnership with Esri. We have what's called the connectors for ArcGIS that are inside of Civil 3D that we can ingest and bring in ArcGIS information from ArcGIS Online and information from ArcGIS Enterprise. All right, we can connect directly to it. Bring that information in and utilize it inside of our design. Then we can in turn, once the design is done and approved and we're going to construction, if we've got as-built information, we can push that information back out as a connection. It's still a connection with the connector. You can push that directly back to ArcGIS Online, and it creates web layers for that data. And again, makes it available to everyone that you want it to be available to. So safe harbor, this is just something saying that I don't want you to make purchasing decisions on anything I say, because I might tell you some things that are coming down the pike. Okay, we've got global launch coming up, and there's a lot of great features that are coming up in our design products and in reality capture. So this is just telling you, don't go on what I say to buy it. All right, you can see and understand what's going to be coming, but if something was to happen and it get pulled and you bought it for that reason, it's not on me. So, so I'd let you read that, but the text is a little small, so that's the Reader's Digest version right there. So our reality solutions overview. Obviously, we start off with scanning, our scanners, any way that you can collect reality capture data. All right, so whether it be a terrestrial scanner, whether it be a scanner that's up on top of a car, whether you've got it on your back, whether you're holding it in your hand. I saw one of those today. Somebody was walking around, it was connected to their phone, and they were just waving it around. I kind of wanted to duck. I didn't know if it was going to, give me something if they ran it over me. But there's all different types of scanners, all right? But they put out the same formats most generally, and Recap can bring in all of those formats. Now, we also see the drone. We can also bring in imagery from a drone, and we could create point clouds from that. It's called Recap Photo. It's embedded into Recap Pro. So any of those scans can go into Recap Pro, and then we can take those scans after they've been put together into a point cloud, and we can bring them into all of our different collections. So the AEC collection, which is the Architecture, Engineering, and Construction collection. We also have the Media and Entertainment collection and Product Design and Manufacturing. I always have to stop and think about media and entertainment. Shrek, right? Other movies that they make now that are, I think it's How to Train Your Dragon, but it's actually a real live person, and the dragon's not real, but they use meshes and things of that nature inside of those movies. So our reality capture products, even though it's something that might be captured out here in front of the building, they could use that inside the movie, right? Also, now we're able to actually bring in point clouds and create what's called a mesh, all right? How many of you are using meshes or have understanding of what the meshes do? So that was a big thing for our architects, okay? They wanted to bring in a mesh file into Revit so that they could take like an existing room like this, if it was scanned, and you can see the HVAC that's up in the ceiling. They wanted to be able to take that HVAC and use it in other Revit files in buildings. So now, with an acquisition that we made, it's coming out in 2026, you will be able to create a mesh locally on your machine, and that mesh can then be taken into a mesh editor, and you can grab pieces and parts of that mesh and drop it right into a Revit file. How many of you have heard of Revit? Yes. All right, good deal. You can bring that into Revit, and you can create a Revit family out of it. All right, so once it's created or turned into a Revit family, you can use it all over, okay? So our vision, again, we capture that data, that point cloud data, and or images, all right? So I told you again that we could grab images from the drone and bring those into Recap Photo, and it will stitch those images together and create a point cloud from it. Side note, you do have the ability to add GCPs to those images, so you can screw it down just as tight as you want to tighten it up, okay? So it works very, very well. Go bring that information into Recap Pro and either stitch the point clouds together or run it through Recap Photo, and you can bring the images together or stitch the images together and create a point cloud. Once you have that there, you can actually, if you're looking for a mesh file, we actually have a mesh service that is online, all right? It's in the cloud. You can take your point cloud and tell it that you want to create a mesh in the cloud, and it'll actually publish everything up, go into the cloud, and give you a mesh file that's there. You also have, again, the photo reconstruction service, which is Recap Photo that I was talking about. So it'll create that point cloud also from the photos. Then you process that point cloud data either in the cloud, if you want to mesh in the cloud, or you can process it on your local machine, all right? Our cloud, when I say cloud, I'm talking about our construction cloud. We call it several different things, and sometimes folks get confused by it. It's referred to as ACC, Autodesk Construction Cloud. Inside the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we use Autodesk Docs. So if you're using Autodesk products, or if you have the AEC collection, then you have a license of Docs. So you can use Autodesk Docs right out of the gate, okay? You can publish your point clouds to Autodesk Docs, and we can view them in a web browser, okay? That's what I was going to show you today. But you can look at them in a web browser. You can not only look at them in a web browser, but you can pull linear features in a web browser. Not on your local, in a web browser. So if you don't even have Recap Pro on your machine, you can still do this, okay? Because you're logged into Docs, all right? It's a name user login. So you log into Docs just through Google Chrome. You pick on that RCP file, it's up there in Autodesk Docs, and you start pulling linear features, okay? I had a 3/4 of a mile point cloud that I had ready to show you, and I had pulled, I don't know how many linear features on that thing. You can not only pull linear features, like when I say that, let me back up and explain what I mean by linear features. I'm talking about curb, talking about gutter, talking about pavement striping, talking about whatever you'd like to have pulled linear in that drawing. We've also, you've got an automatic way to do it that works very well with roadway entities like the barriers, curbs, sidewalk. But you can also grab things manually just by control clicking. So we've done power line, all right? Just ran down a power line, and then you've got the actual elevation of the power line, whether it's sagging or not, and it'll run a line right down that power line, okay? So just, you start doing it, and it's like, well, hey, maybe I can grab this. And then at the end of the day, everything is completely selected, and you can export that out and start to use it. We can not only pull linear features, but we can create point objects, okay? So if you have a sign, you can pick right below that sign, it'll pull the elevation vertically and the horizontal location of that sign. When you pick that point, you give it a name. It's got a schema that you can add to it. So if you're used to surveying, all right, you're used to using a code for a sign. What would somebody use for that? Are there any surveyors in here? SG, all right? You type in, or you actually create a schema that is SG, all right? And that's for your sign. When it comes into Civil 3D, it will actually set the correct symbol or symbology on that point when it's imported, okay? So it works just like your description keys would, to like if you were out in the field and you picked up a sign and you put in SG, it's going to react the same way. But we're doing it from the point cloud. And we're pulling that inside of our web viewer. You also have some 3D objects that you can pull. We've got a new ADA ramp that you can actually just place right on top of an ADA ramp and expand it out to wherever however big the ADA ramp is. And you can bring that ADA ramp into Civil 3D and create a surface from it and then do an analysis on it just to make sure that it's meeting slope requirements. So basically you can create a heat map actually, and it'll just show you that anything in red, that's bad. Okay, so lots and lots and lots of things you could do with that. So you can see here, not only in ACC, you can work with the point clouds for visualization. We can also use it for model coordination. In ABC Pro, or that's the next level up from Docs, we're able to do what's called model coordination. In model coordination, if we take that point cloud, or take that, don't use the point cloud, we use the mesh file. We can actually push out a Navisworks file that's got the mesh, bring it into model coordination, and coordinate it with anything that you want that's in the same coordinate system. Okay? If you've got buildings around, you've got a site that you've designed in Civil 3D, or it's in a coordinate system, a DWG that's in a coordinate system, that can all be put together and you can clash against it. Okay? And that's in what we call ABC Pro. And also you can start your scan to design. Now, I've been talking about the mesh. We can bring that mesh file into Revit, all right? We can bring it into Navisworks. The great thing about bringing those mesh files in is that they're on a coordinate system most generally, okay? So a coordinate system of some kind. So we're not physically trying to place it somewhere. If we have a Revit model that's been coordinated correctly, right? It has a coordinate system, or it's set to a coordinate system. One way to do that would be with a shared reference point. Then it physically will just drop in where it's supposed to, okay? Because it's on the same coordinate system. And that would be a mesh file that you would be doing that with. And we can use that with, like I said, Revit, Navisworks, Plan 3D, Civil 3D, Tandem, etc. And that can also be pulled in from your local machine. It doesn't have to be in the cloud. You can do the same thing, save that mesh file on your local machine, and then you can bring it into whatever one of those products you want to bring it into and start to use it, okay? So a lot going on, lots going on. So what is available today, all right? What we call the cloud-connected workflow, we're able to bring large point clouds into ACC, or Autodesk Docs, okay? If you have a construction, or if you have a license of Autodesk Docs, or you have a collection, all right, you get Docs with it, all right? So you have the opportunity to use it right out of the gate. So if you're using the collection, Recap is in the collection, you can start tomorrow, okay? Reality capture meshes that are used in model coordination, we can do that. That's available today. And then we have enhanced panoramic images that you can import and export. So what they're talking about there is E57 format files. They make lots better images whenever you go back and forth between real view and the point cloud, right? It's like night and day, all right? We can bring those in now, E57 files, and we can export them out, all right? So great new features. And if I hit it twice, then the videos would play. We'll go to the next one here. So available today also is data interoperability. See if I can get that to go. There we go. So again, we're talking about the enhanced panoramic images, the E57 files. It's going to show you here where you can import those in and start to utilize that imagery. We had a lot of requests for 3D mouse navigation. All right, I mean, lots of it. Wanted to use the new 3D mice that are available. So that's there for you to use now. And then, of course, the accurate rendering and the feature extraction. All right, we're able to pull linear features. We're able to pull features literally from the point cloud itself. All right, so scan to design, that is also launched. This is, again, it's a cloud workflow. It's up in our Autodesk Construction Cloud. We're able to collaborate across teams, time zones, locations, and the reason why is because it's in the cloud. It's not on your local machine. It's not something that you're accessing on your local machine. It's in the cloud. So you send a link from Docs directly, and they can pick that, whoever can pick that link, and they can start to look at and work with that point cloud. Now, we've been talking about, pulling linear features and things of that nature, and that's great. You can do a lot of other things. I mean, you can do simple measurements. We can look at it for visualization. We might be able to, in the future, classify things in the cloud, which would be fantastic, right? Being able to classify different pieces of that point cloud. That might be coming. I heard a little bird tell me. We've also got the automated feature extraction, which is what I've been talking about. I can pull line work. I can pull points. I can pull 3D objects, some of them that are out of the box. And then I can leverage those feature lines in Civil 3D. Now, why would I want those linear features? All right. I would want them so, number one, I could bring in those linear features, feature lines, they come in as feature lines in Civil 3D, and I can generate a lightweight surface from those feature lines, okay? Rather than bringing in a 20 billion point cloud and trying to use it as if, or build a surface from it, which you can do, you can just bring in the linear features and generate the surface from that, and I'm telling you, it's just as tight, okay? Because you can actually tell it how close that you want it to sample. So we can have it sample every 1/10 of a meter if you'd like. All right. Now you're going to be sitting there for a little while watching it click off going around the curb, but you can do that. I did 3/4 of a mile of road, the curb and gutter, ran it to a barrier that was about another mile, and it took me about 15 minutes, all right, to capture all of that. Okay. That's a lot easier. I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've had to do it. Using my mouse and just click, 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 and wondering if I'm on top of it, trying to just trace a shape or whatever. Your finger gets pretty tired, all right? That algorithm they're using doesn't get tired. It just keeps on ticking, okay? That's why you want it, is so that you can create lightweight surfaces inside of Civil 3D. Also, every feature that you pull from that point cloud is what? It's an existing condition, right? It's something that you can push to ArcGIS Online, and then other people in your company can use. I promise somebody's going to need that. They'll need that data on that road at some point, because in 3/4 of a mile, there's always stuff going on. Even on the same project, if it was pulled for just one project, maybe a rehab, there may be 3 or 4 people working on that project. You never know. They could all benefit from that instantly once it's inside of ArcGIS Online, because they can all connect to it. It's a live connection using the Autodesk connector for ArcGIS. It pulls that information in from ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, and you get not only the horizontal location, but you get the vertical elevation. What's that mean? That means that I can target things because it's correct in the world horizontally and vertically. Okay, that's huge. And that's coming from the link, all right, or the connection. That connection is live. If something was to change with that data, you would get that update. Okay, so I don't know if any of you have ever built a corridor on a roadway, but you know that on the edge of that lane, if you've got it targeted to something and that target changes, that corridor will change, all right? I used to call it the chicken wing. It'll move up and down, do whatever you want it to do, move in and out. So if that data changed that you were targeted to from ArcGIS Online, that corridor would automatically update, okay? Which means you don't have to do anything except for watch it update and recontour, okay? It's huge time savings. In beta, I talked about Scan-to-BIM for buildings. This is, again, the mesh generation. It is local and it is in the cloud. If you are going to use the mesh generator for a building, all right, you're going to want to do it on your local machine. It does it very quickly. I did it for that 3/4 of a mile of road, and it did it in 15 minutes. It created a mesh on my local machine in 15 minutes. Now, once it was on my machine, then I can go into what's called the mesh editor, and I can start to classify things just by selection. I can select something, put it in a specific classification. I can turn the whole mesh off, grab just that one classification, and export it out, all right? I can export it out into it used to be a PFX file, but they changed the format in the last version, so it's not that anymore, but it's a file that comes into Revit, all right? I can export that out in that file format, or I can export it out in a Navisworks format so that I can do clash detection in AEC Pro or model coordination. But you can export that out and start to use it in Revit. You can bring it right in. There's a Revit plugin that will be available, and you literally just bring it in, and it attaches it to the model, and you have the option to do anything with it after that. You don't have to embed it in the model. You don't have to create a Revit family out of it. You can just sit there and you can look at it, and then you can take it right out. You can turn it on and off. There's a menu and everything for it. So huge. That's a huge thing for being able to duplicate things in a Revit model. Segmented mesh workflow, again, I've been talking about that. And then the Revit plugin for Mesh-to-BIM. That's what they're calling it. So that's going to all be, there's going to be other workflows besides building. I know that it says Scan-to-BIM for buildings. Folks, it's Scan-to-BIM. You can create a mesh, like I just said, for that 3/4 of a mile of road. And there's a bridge that goes across that road. Guess what? I can take that bridge. I can create a classification called bridge, crazily enough. Turn that thing off and export it out. And I could bring that into InfraWorks. Okay? InfraWorks is another tool that we have that's great for visualization. You can bring that in, and it's the bridge on that road, okay? And it looks like that bridge because it's got all the photogrammetry and everything that was there for it. So our FY25 integration plan is already in effect, okay? We can bring in anything that's been collected out in the field, scan-wise. You can bring that into Recap and put it all together. So if you've got 300 scans, you can bring that into Recap Pro and you can stitch all of those together. It'll do that for you. Also remember, and I keep kind of repeating myself on this, but you can bring in the imagery from a drone and it'll stitch that information together and give you a point cloud also. Now, one other thing it automatically does do in Recap Photo, it not only gives you a point cloud, but it does give you a mesh out of the gate. So you have that segmented mesh right out of the gate for it. I've even gone down with my cell phone and taken pictures around like an old cannon, like an old Civil War cannon. And I wanted that to be an asset inside of my visualization. I ran it through Recap Photo. It generated a mesh. I stuck it on my InfraWorks model. People loved it. They could relate to it because it's physically there, right? Oh, that's the cannon that's there. You know, they can relate to that stuff, and you can easily create that information in Recap Photo. So we do all the data aggregation and preparation inside of Recap Pro, and then we jump into Revit and we start using that the mesh information in Revit. I don't want you to think that you can only bring mesh files into Revit. You can bring the point clouds into Revit. We actually had somebody come by the booth today and ask us about that. If there was anybody that built, that just took point clouds and actually built the Revit model from the point clouds. All right. I'm not going to point. No. So that is something that can be done. Those files can be brought into Revit, and you can just start drawing walls right over the top of the stuff. And then the products that we're going to be most generally focused on or pushing this great data to is Tandem, obviously Navisworks, because we can do clash detection inside of Navisworks. InfraWorks is, again, great for visualization, preliminary design, things of that nature. It's very easy to create a roadway, very easy to work with bridges or create a new bridge. Trying to get the point across on a project, InfraWorks is a great program to use that with. And then also Tandem. So, all right. Our Reality Solutions resources. This is a QR code for our public roadmap. All right. So they maintain that, Ramesh, he maintains this thing. I mean, it's updated daily. So you're more than welcome to scan that and take a look at the public roadmap. It is up to date all the time. There is a lot coming for Recap. There is a lot of things coming for Recap. Then also we've got learning content. We've got a QR code for our learning content. So you can take a look at that and take advantage of all the great learning content that's out there for Recap and all of our reality capture solutions.